My name's Josh, and if you know me at all, you know that my videos are typically geared towards real estate or putting a spotlight on local businesses, and I typically have fun with them. This is not going to be that type of video. The past 2 weeks have been insane, and I don't know what to do. I don't know what actions to take to help in any way. One thing I do know, though, is I'm relatively comfortable making videos, and I've got some friends who I'd like to talk to so that I can learn. I think that's the first step. My goal with this video is by the end of it to have something tangible that I can do, that we can do as white people to improve our relationship with black people. And I know that makes some of us uncomfortable, and it probably should. Because if we're not part of the solution, then we're probably part of the problem. I ask that over the course of this video, we keep our minds open and we just sit back and learn and listen from a friend of mine, one of my best friends, who just so happens to be black. And I look forward to this discussion. So buckle up. We're in for a treat, and I'd love to introduce Teno Boone. Folks, I have Mr. Teno Boone. Teno, thank you for coming, my friend.
Yeah, no problem.
I've known Teno and Kelly. Kelly's his wife for a couple of years now, and we actually got introduced through church. And one of the first accounts that I remember actually spending much time with you was at couples camp, where our church kind of puts on like a camp where you and your significant other go to an actual campsite and get to hang out all weekend. It was really a great chance to get to know you guys at a deeper level than just passing at church. But just a couple other tidbits about Teno before I turn it over to him. I know that we've worked together a couple times on some real estate deals, and I think so highly of this man that I invited him to be a part of a real estate investment group that we've got going on. This is definitely not about real estate. He also works at Owens Corning. So, Teno, that's a little bit about you. I've got note cards, and we're just going to fling them out there. I've always wanted to do that. So I'm a talk show host or whatever. All right, so Teno, in your own words, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I think first, I'm a husband. I think second, I'm a son and a soon-to-be father. Grew up in Baltimore, Baltimore City. Went to Johns Hopkins University where I met my wife. And I then graduated, studied engineering, wound up getting a job actually at Procter & Gamble, where I moved to Cincinnati, and then in Georgia. And actually in Cincinnati is where my real estate journey kind of started. Bought literally a condo as soon as I did. It's funny because I got a mortgage without it before I even had a job. So yeah,
Congratulations.
Yeah. So that was a little impressive. So kind of, again, bought the condo there. Then when I moved to Georgia, wound up renting it out, and then in Georgia bought a few properties. Then now I'm here in Columbus. I work for Owens Corning, and also in the building materials space at full time. That's kind of the day job, and still in real estate today as kind of the side gig. Own 7 doors, not including the ones we're partnering on. And so been kind of real estate agent. We've done a little bit of everything. I mean, real estate investor, engineer by day, and my wife was also kind of dabbled in the Airbnb space, so we were kind of running a hotel for a little bit. So
yeah, so that's how we really originally connected, was over the real estate thing. And this is definitely not about real estate, but this is an impressive person, and so is his wife, and you'll get to know a little bit more about him here as we ask some more questions. So let's get into that. So tell me a little bit about your upbringing, and what were maybe a moment or two that helped define who you are.
Yeah, I think one time, again, my family. I think when I was really early, we were American Dream. My dad had started his own business, and he was doing really well right until about 2008. And so when that happened, there's just a lot of.
So 2008 was when everything collapsed, housing industry. And all
and he was. And sorry, let me kind of back up. He was sort of in the new construction. He would, drywall would go up. He would come in, clean up, get it ready for finishes, and haul out all the debris. And so, they were throwing up houses like crazy everywhere. And so there was a ton of business. He had two crews running. It was doing really well until like they just stopped building houses, right around 2008. And so, through that, like a lot of stuff happened, in my life. Obviously finances, kind of took a hit. So a lot of the luxuries, again, we had to kind of get rid of them. The one that I missed the most was like cable TV. So being a kid, no cable, it was tough one to give up. But also, again, my family kind of really just fell apart, particularly my mom and dad's relationship. And through all of this, me trying to be a kid to stay out of trouble, I don't want to cause my parents any grief. When being asked, it was, about my feelings, how I was doing, it was always, hey, I'm fine. There's nothing wrong. And, my dad, I think, noticed I think certain things, whether, I'm not sure if it was me being angry or sad or just, he was just noticing things in his son that weren't right. And, he knew that, there was a lot going on. And essentially what he did was, we literally spent hours in the car, and I would not open up until, I don't know, maybe I finally broke. And, when I actually were able to express myself, the frustrations, the feelings, instead of bottling up, that really changed something in me, because I remember how I felt after that. And moving forward, I think it just opened me up to a level of vulnerability that I think has allowed me to just build great friendships. I think that's one of the things that I appreciate most in my life, and I know I wouldn't have that without that moment.
Wow. And we'll get into that a little bit more in the near future here, but your dad, it sounds like, just preventing you from focusing on anything else and forcing you to focus on the issue, built a lifelong, like, positive for you.
Mm-hmm.
So be a good parent.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
it's important.
Let's see here. Let's have some fun for a second.
Sure.
Let's give us one fun fact about Teno Boone.
Fun fact, don't know if you knew this, but I was actually a regional champion wrestler in high school. So,
All right.
yeah.
Busting people's skulls.
I mean, I love it. It's so much fun. I wish I could do it, more again.
I've actually witnessed his wrestling skills. It happened to maybe have been at the bar with horsing around with a friend, but I know you got the skills to pay the bills there. Let's jump into a really serious question though, and this is the start of this is why I want to have the conversation, because growing up I think I had a total of less than 10 black people at my high school, my graduating class, and I didn't really experience the racism that I hear throughout the rest of the country, and especially right now. Can you share with me maybe one or two, maybe three experiences of racism that you've dealt with in your life?
Yeah, sure. I think I'm going to go ahead and go with three of them, from different time periods in my life. One was really early. There was a young white girl about my age. She lived kind of catty-cornered to my house, and, we used to kind of play together, but, as we kind of grew up, her dad, for some reason, just didn't want us, didn't really let her come over in my yard, and I couldn't go over hers, but I also got to notice that I had some white friends in the neighborhood that kind of came over, went inside, played, they could go as free as they want, and never really know. Again, I tried to be a good kid, tried to be respectful, but just never really understood why he didn't like me and my little brother. But we got over it. They moved, and we kept life moving. So that was kind of elementary school. I go to middle school. I actually got accepted to a program that kind of for students who excelled in math and science. In middle school, elementary school, and then went to the special program middle school. But the school was like across town, and where the school was at, it was called Roland Avenue. You know, you have Roland Park Middle School, which is the middle school I went to. It's a city school. It's, you know, most of the people there are black. And then you have kind of these prep schools. One is an all-girls school. You know, one is a all-boys school, and you got to pay pretty top dollar to go there. And you know, again, majority white. And you know, we all wore different school uniforms, so you could tell very easily, you know, who's who. Outside of race, but it was also, you know, the racial thing was just there as well. You know, where we didn't have to wear uniforms and you knew what school somebody came from. So there was like a grocery store. So just kind of setting up the scene here. There's a grocery store on the street, you know, where these three schools are, and you know, for some reason or other, only kids from my school had to wait in line to go in the store. So you know, you can kind of picture it. You got this kind of line of black kids around this grocery store, and the white kids and their uniforms. You know, they could just go right in, go back out. Whereas we were only let in, I don't know, maybe one or two at a time. And so, you know, again, I just, you know, I think I did it maybe once or twice, and I just said, no, I'm never kind of going back to the store again. And then, you know, the third one in high school, you know, this is like later, like junior, senior year. You know, we're at a restaurant kind of hanging out for the weekend, group of, you know, young black kids. We had finished eating. You know, we're actually at a light, stopped, about to leave kind of the parking lot area of the mall. And, you know, officer kind of comes up behind us, turns the lights on, you know, he stopped, we say, hey, you know, how you doing, officer? He tells everybody, like literally everybody in the car, to get out. I think him and his partner, they pat everybody down, and they just said, hey, you know, oh, you fit a description. You know, it wasn't violence or anything, but certainly harassment. And, you know, we went home and, you know, just had to deal with it, man.
I think we're good. So the first time we had spoken of race, like, honestly, this just recently happened. So it'd been like a year and a half of us knowing each other before we really talked about anything race related, was when the news about Ahmaud Arbery broke.
Yeah.
Can we revisit that for a second? Like, what were your thoughts, you know, as the news surfaced about that?
Yeah, I'm actually not proud of my initial thoughts, you know, about the whole Ahmaud Arbery thing, and you know, I've since moved on to a different place. But initial thoughts was like, you know, damn, there goes another one. Like, no, you know, almost like no big deal. Like, it was, you know, it was Tuesday. It was like, yeah, this is what happens to black males in this country. And it was more of a, I think, acceptance and hopelessness about, you know, just the condition of, you know, just being black male and, you know, in this country. I since, you know, since then kind of had more conversations recognizing that, like, that is absolutely, you know, a horrendous attitude towards the thing. And, you know, then, you know, as I'm kind of processing it more and more, realizing just how atrocious the whole thing was with Ahmaud. I mean, you talk about a guy, you know, just running, jogging, and, you know, he's gunned down. That's terrible. And, you know, again, you know, I think a lot of the conversation is like, all right, you know, there's bad people that do bad things, and, you know, what are we going to do about that? But it's also the systematic piece of it, to where, you know, again, you have a dead black body right there laying in the street, and, you know, the guy just goes home, probably drinks a beer, talks about how crazy of a day it was. And, you know, right then and there, it was just like, man, yeah, like, black male lives are really disposable. You know, maybe he got a, you know, slap on the wrist, maybe he got, you know, talking to, but the gravity of a life taken, I don't think that people equated that young man dead to a human being losing his life. I don't see how you do that and just have somebody just walk away. Like, I can walk in the street, be smoking weed, and go to jail. but yet somebody kills somebody and just walk, just go home and is home for 2 months, and really it wasn't until, some of the publicity, the social media, till the video got leaked, people got upset to somebody even did anything about it. And so that was like, again, it was a, kind of check mark that said, yeah, this is a systematic problem. It's not just individuals.
Yeah, I think when that had happened, when the news initially came out, it was like right when quarantine was like starting to really take effect. So I think that it kind of got buried a little bit from a news perspective. And one of the things that quarantine had kind of bottled up, I think, until this most recent event, which has sparked obviously a lot of this discussion, debate, and not to say that Ahmaud Arbery's case didn't do that to some extent, but there's literally no other distractions right now. There's no sports. You couldn't leave the house. We were bored. There was nothing else to do, and then George Floyd.
Yeah.
What goes through your mind when I say his name?
Again, I think just about the systematic issues in this country. The thing that I feel like we can't do is just say that was one bad cop. Because there was a lot of, again, I'm an engineer, right? We talked about, me working for Owens Corning. I worked for, another Fortune 500 company before that. I'm an engineer. I've worked in a lot of manufacturing plants. And, one of the things that we do is, whenever we have a safety incident, we look at all the root causes. And you don't have a safety incident because one thing goes wrong. You would think that your system is built around people being safe and being able to do their job and come home to their families exactly the way that, they came in. And so, when I look at that, again, the system that's kind of set up here, there's a lot of things that failed with George Floyd. Yes, that, one, is really, I think, the leadership in the Minneapolis Police Department. This wasn't an isolated event. Who knows how many other George Floyds there were that maybe have died and they didn't have a videotape to kind of have outrage about this. Who knows how many people, again, that, he's done this to or done something similar to, that maybe they just, again, the position that he was on them, they were able to get, enough air and they were able to go home, or, actually go to jail, the place that, he was supposed to take him. And things worked out. But regardless of the fact that there was, many documented cases of, complaints against this officer. And his leadership did nothing about it. I think about my job. If I have, I feel like I have 1 or 2 complaints, 3, I'm out, right? I lose my job. But that's not the case, for this officer. And this whole, the leadership in there that allowed him to, to continue to be in there when clearly he was unfit. And then just the systematic, just issue of he wasn't the only police officer there on the scene. There was 4 other people that were holding him. And so, again, this was routine practice, right? This is something that, they deemed okay. And that's the problem here. That's the root cause of this. And, again, the fact, I don't see this happening, to someone other than the black male. I think that's the only reason why in everybody's minds, from a police standpoint, that's okay. And there's systematic, I think, practices that, teach police to fear black men. And I think, again, when you fear something, whatever you do can be justified because it's a threat. And we gotta stop seeing people as threats and start seeing them as people, as human beings. Clearly, you don't put your knee on another human being's neck for 10 minutes and think that that's okay. So, there's a complete disconnect to, oh no, that is a life, that is a human, and there's value there. I felt like that was completely disrespected in George Floyd's case.
Yeah, it sounds like we've got a foundational issue. You said root cause, like look at the root cause and weed it out. We always talk in business about root cause and trying to improve upon those things. I know a lot of the protests, the only thing that's really being advertised through the media, it feels like, is all the looting and the things burning down, right? But one of the things that people are protesting for is for reform within, government, police forces, and things of that nature to try and get to the root cause. So it's not something we as white people should just be sweeping under the rug. This should be something that we're all on the same page for, because black, white, it doesn't matter. We should all receive the same amount of justice. It feels like. I'm gonna bring my son out.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Jackson. So, I've got my son Jackson here. He's 6 years old. What grade are you in?
First grade.
Yeah, he just graduated kindergarten and he's gonna go to first grade. And we've known, who's this guy?
Teno.
Tina. We've known Tino and Kelly for a while, and we spend a lot of time with them, right? What color is Tino's skin?
Brown.
Brown. Yeah. And what color is your skin?
Blondish.
Blondish, whitish. Yeah. Did God make Tino? Did God make you? Do you think God loves us all the same?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we probably shouldn't treat people differently, right? That have different skin color. Does that make sense? Well, I just want to have this conversation with you. This is a tough subject for me, because as a parent, the thing we just got done talking about was foundation. And the foundation of a family is, I think, where our first duty comes, as a white man or a black man, rearing up your children appropriately is pretty critical. So that we can hopefully nip this whole racism thing in the butt, right? I was reading a book this morning. It's actually written by our lead pastor, Brian Tome. It's called Move, and it's a 66-day devotional. And it was very fortuitous / divine that today's reading was about being first to market in your family. First to market in the business world means getting your product out there first. But in your family, it means, especially as a father, being the first one to talk to your children about serious matters. And there's nothing more serious right now, I feel, than this race game, the issue that's happening. And so I invited you to be a part of our conversation because I love you and I want to raise you the right way and make sure that there's an open book, that we're not hiding anything, and that we're talking about serious things, sometimes even when it's a little bit uncomfortable. Does that sound okay? Cool. So we're going to ask Tino a couple more questions, okay? So Tino, this may not be an easy question to answer, and it may not even be a fair question to answer, but what are some things that you can think of that we can do to bridge this nationwide gap right now?
Yeah, I'm actually, kind of coming out of this. I mean, there was a lot of anger, but, recently, particularly over the weekend, there's actually been some hope. And I think the hope that I have is that I feel like in this country, myself included, we've tolerated racism. We've said that, hey, it is part of, America. It's part of, our society. And I think that the first thing that we can do is just really be committed to stamping it out wherever we see it. Again, I think that there's circles that, we just allow it to happen, and we just write it off. Oh, that's just that person. But I think if we're committed, and we say that literally that attitude, treating someone else differently because of their race, because of their skin color, is completely unacceptable. We commit to that.
So
I think
real quick, one of the things you're saying, if I'm hearing you right, is when you see something wrong happening, do something about it.
Absolutely.
So Jackson, your shirt here is from your school. It says peace, love, and kindness. So kindness, what does that mean to you?
It means that you be kind to other people and help people. And even if they get hurt, you just say, "Are you feeling good?"
Yeah. And also, if you see somebody like being pushed around or bullied, like bullies are bad, maybe you should say something, even if it just means going to your teacher, right? Cool. Sorry to cut you off.
No, gotta break it down. I feel like sometimes I'm like off in the clouds.
No, it's all good.
Yeah.
So, what else? Is there anything else that you can think of that
Yeah.
we can be doing?
I think just getting educated. I think learning about it really, this conversation we're having right now, where I know I've never told you half of the stories that, that we just talked about now. We're talking about it because of a tragedy that's happened, but I don't think it has to be that way in the future. Stepping in, like really asking people about it. I think, particularly as folks, as white people, it's like you don't have to deal with it. So really asking, others, someone of a different skin tone who's different than you, what's your experience been? Have you dealt with these things similar to how we're talking now? I think it builds some empathy, because I think a big of the problem is that, I think people just deny that it doesn't exist, or we'll say, yeah, that's overblown, or that doesn't, stop bringing up stuff that's in the past. This stuff isn't in the past, it's right here. And so like learning about people's experiences, I think it really helps, and just, opening up and building that authentic empathy.
Love that. So, empathy and compassion, like caring about your fellow brother, right?
Mm-hmm.
He may not be my brother from the same mother, but he's my brother of a different color.
Yeah.
It all comes full circle. Yeah, I hope that's still recording. So one last question here. How has faith helped you in this crazy year 2020 thus far?
Faith helped me turn the corner. Faith turned my hopelessness into through Christ we can get through this, because I knew, recognizing my own role in this. I mean, again, there was some conviction in my attitude, but faith kind of helped me turn the corner with the grace, to say, hey, yep, I may not have done all I could in the past, but today's a new day, and what is God putting before me today, to really make a difference in this area, and just bringing positive change throughout. And I think, I'm not sure if I would have said yes to this before this happened, but I think through this happened, through grace, through just saying, hey God, what do you have for me today? I have hope, and so that's a huge deal, because it wasn't always there.
Yeah, I've seen you evolve, and just your willingness to help out with something like this. And I don't know where this will lead, but hopefully it'll help one or two or 100 people out there to just have a conversation with your fellow man or woman. So I'll end with this. You and Kelly are pregnant and expecting a baby girl. And when is the due date?
July 27th.
Super soon.
Yeah.
So you're going to have another little child to play with soon.
Yeah.
And you're going to name her Raina, right?
Yeah.
And I think another reason that I wanted you to be present here is because we hang out with these guys a lot. And I obviously don't want you to be treating his daughter any different than you would treat your friends around the neighborhood or your friends at school, right? Based off color or anything else, right? Like, we treat everybody equal, and we are kind to people, right? It's super important. Make sense? Well, so leaving this conversation, guys, I know it's been a good, lengthy discussion, but I think there's tangible things that we can leave this with.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to do something. And that's all this is our effort to do something to hopefully help. My go-to as a father is to look at that foundation, and just like you were talking with George Floyd, and the reason that I think I love talking to you so much is coming from a business perspective. You break things down a little more analytically, and that root cause, the foundation, I'm relaying that into this family that I've got growing, and it's going to be imperative for me as a white man to breed really clear, distinct guidance and tutelage for my child and my children, so that we are not only inclusive of others, but we love diversity, and ultimately we love everyone, right? You love everyone, right? This is the most loving kid in the world, so I'm very fortunate.
Yeah.
He's a smart kid, and super lucky to have him. So, Teno, man, I really appreciate it. Any last thoughts?
Guys, let's embrace grace in this. I think for everybody, there's nothing we can do about what happened in the past. So, again, let's give each other the grace and let's move forward together. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, man.
Damn it.
Give him a high five.
Nice.
Nice. All right. Thanks, guys. Until next time.